Welcome back to another episode of Unranked Podcast. Switching it up today and dive in on some basketball. Haven't done that as much the last few months, but we're going to take some time today to just talk about state of both programs essentially. Michigan, basketball they obviously had a tough season this year, and then our Detroit Pistons, they had a tough season as well. So we're expecting a lot of change. In the offseason for both teams. Michigan basketball, they're already pretty much underway with like a full roster turnover. Probably expecting some stuff to happen with the Pistons once the season is over. But throw it over to you, E. Just kind of see your thoughts on Michigan basketball this season, Juwan Howard and how things kind of went down last few months.
Yeah, no. So I think, I guess first and foremost, I just want to say that, I would be lying if I said I wasn't ecstatic about Juwan Howard, ecstatic about what he did the first 3 years at the program. Um, I, I believe you throw the COVID year in there as well, but I think he reached an Elite Eight and a Sweet 16 in there in that window. So he had some things going, and then I think at the end of the day, just something happened in the program where it was hard to retain players, whether it was Dickinson or Frankie Collins or the guys to the draft, whether it was Diambate or Caleb Houston, or I mean, we could rattle off probably three or four more guys that left prematurely, and that if you had any combination of them guys on this team here, we wouldn't be such a bottom feeder. But it was just tough to watch. Dating back to last season, I don't remember if I specifically talked to you about this or not, but just watching how we lost to Vanderbilt in NIT last year,
Yeah.
that was a very alarming to me. We had a solid lead, and then I'm not lying, we could not inbound the ball for 2 straight minutes to end the game, and we lost. And I think that was like a 6 or 8 point lead with 2 minutes to go, and that was the one of the first real times where I said something is happening here. And then you take the off season, so many players leaving, and then obviously
Yeah.
what happened this year where there was a stretch there where Michigan football equals Michigan basketball as far as wins go in 2024 this year. You're talking 2-0 versus 2-19, I think. So it got bad, and they separated ways, and now you bring in an interesting candidate, Dusty May, a guy I'm not gonna lie was not on top of my list, but we got him now. He's already brought over, I think, two players from Florida Atlantic, and it's an interesting hire. And I'm not going to take too much time. I think just to kind of bounce back to you, I think the the biggest thing is we have to decide, or we have to figure out if he can coach and recruit in the new landscape.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of even in football, as far as the new landscape, the combo of high school kids filling long-term needs and transfer portal filling needs that with semi-proven guys or guys that just need a second chance.
Immediate
And
needs.
and you already know they've kind of been through the ringer as far as football goes in college, and they can kind of handle it. Or if basketball goes in college, they can kind of handle it. So,
Yep.
I think you look at Connecticut, a handful of transfers on that team. You look at a lot of the Final Four, other than probably Purdue, a lot of transfers on that team, and I'm sure they got one or two as well. So I think that's kind
Hmm.
of the landscape that you have to kind of maneuver in with now. And I want to see if he can do that. He can handle that at a big time level. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, I echo a lot of that. I think, like Juwan, I mean, he came in hot. I think they started off like 19-0 or 17-0 his first season, and unfortunately had the tournament canceled. So didn't really see what it came from that, but solid 2 years. I'd say a solid like year and a half after that. And then it felt like middle of the year before the Sweet 16 where things started to kind of feel a little rocky. I felt like I think I told you a few different times, or I told quite a few people, like it felt like he was just treated like the NBA. To where, I think we see it all the time. You got a lot of teams like the running joke right now is how like, the Lakers, the Warriors, the Heat, they're kind of like bottom feeding right now in the playoff race because they can just kind of turn it on, once the playoffs start. I feel like he was essentially just kind of coasting through non-conference and then trying to turn it on for for conference play, and we watched them last year go all the way to like almost, I mean, essentially the final whistle against Rutgers, trying to still get in and couldn't make it. But I mean, everything from defensive lapses, scoring. I think we saw everything from scoring droughts that are like 10 minutes long, 8 minutes long, 12 minutes long. Just for whatever reason, just got guys that just can't score, not score. Can't get whatever needs to be done on the court. And then yeah, you hit on the head with the transfers. And I was gonna kind of go a different angle. I thought was interesting was a lot of transfers have left and then went smaller schools. One guy, I mean, he just transferred to Bowling Green yesterday, and he barely played for Michigan. So I started to kind of question, are we even bringing in the kind of talent that, like, what kind of talent are we even bringing in if these guys are leaving, they're not playing here, and they're going to smaller schools, like schools that aren't great at basketball, just to, get on the court finally. So
Yeah.
I mean, it was tough. Like I said, I thought, I was right there with you. I thought this was gonna be like, obviously Juwan being a little younger, 5, 10, 15 year type deal, just kind of, build it up and really turn it into a powerhouse. But I don't know, I think a lot of us, or I mean, speak for myself, I think we kind of just thought that like the Fab Five deal was kind of like do it, just kind of that aura. And it did for a little bit, but I think it kind of like ran out over time,
Right.
towards the end. So,
I mean, you need some substance with all of that. I think, just whether things not due to him, you bring in, I think his name was Isaiah Todd,
mhm.
uh, a top 7 player, if I'm not mistaken, in probably 20 or 21. And then the NBA invents something where he's going to pay these kids $500,000 to, go play basketball semi-professionally.
Yeah.
That things like that are just out of your control. You bring him in
Mhm.
on already tournament type team, maybe things are different. It probably would have worked out better for him. I happened to look him up the other day, you know, and so I just think it's one of those situations where just bad all around. And I agree with you on that. Some of the players are going to smaller schools or haven't panned out. But I look at Hunter Dickinson. I don't know his stats, but I know he was balling out at Kansas this year.
Mhm.
Frankie Collins, 13-4 at
Yeah.
Arizona State. Jeb Jackson, 11-5 at VCU. Those are players that we clearly would have helped a 8-win team. So I
Yeah.
just think it's one of those things where you gotta uh, with everything we had going and that momentum we had, the last 10 years prior to a couple of years ago was one of the best 10-year runs in Michigan basketball program history. And, I think it's not too late to kind of rehash that quickly. I'm
Mhm.
messed up that it didn't work out with Juwan Howard. I agree. It would have been great just for everything. Michigan
Yeah.
man, keep the Fab Five around, whatever. But it doesn't seem to be at least on to the out to the public that bad of a breakup. So if Dusty May can get us back in the Final Four in 2, 3, 4 years, I feel like the Fat Five still probably show up to those games.
For
So
sure.
I don't think it's been that bad of a fracture. Just something that happened, and
Yeah.
for whatever reason, it probably both parties had to know that this wasn't working. Um,
Mhm.
and just looking forward, I think for I don't know what your expectations are for this upcoming season. We don't even know who's on the roster practically. I think
Yeah.
we were at one point down to like 4 or 6 roster spots total filled as of like 2 weeks ago. So you said the words going into this a complete program overhaul, and that's exactly what it is. We're gonna, and this is the type of environment and atmosphere where you can turn something around very quickly. I'm might be putting my foot in my mouth with this, but a la like Mel Tucker, you can bring in a bunch of guys to turn the program around very quickly. So you can have one of them type years where, you can be right back in the mix. And I wouldn't put it past it. I mean, particularly in basketball, you're one player away.
For
Um,
sure.
so just go plant them seeds, get back, go get in good graces with them high school coaches, hit the transfer
Mhm.
portal, and I think we have Mr. Basketball signed to us right now. I don't know the guy's name.
Um,
Somewhere out of the west
Terrell
side of the state.
Brooks. Yeah.
So hopefully we can keep him a boat, get him on the squad. I know he's brought that big 7-footer over from Florida Atlantic. I think he brought a guard over.
Yeah.
you know, so I don't know what your expectations are, but I can't sit through another 8-win team.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think, and I don't know, I think we've talked about too, like our expectations for basketball. They'll even change for football now, just with the playoff, being expanded. Just get in. You know what I'm saying? Like I ain't gonna say I'm happy with like first four in, but just get in. Like I think just get into the tourney. They'll probably end up expanding that too. But I think, I don't. They're not even that saying like get in. I kind of want to take that off the plate for next year just because, going from, I think it'd be a lot more reasonable, be like, if we had 8 wins this year, can we get 16? You know
That's
what I'm saying? Can we get
that's actually
15?
right. That's literally the number I was just going to tell you. I think
'Cause I
that's
do, yeah. Because I do feel like, I mean, you could look at, if I look at like Michigan's schedule in basketball this year, I mean, just dropping games to like, you know, Long Beach State, last year they dropped a game to Central, they dropped a game to Ohio, those are the games like what's been happening in the last couple of years is like, we need to just beat people that we're supposed to be beating. So I think if we can like kind of start there and just, 12 to 15 wins, getting the, I hate to say it, but it is, the NIT. They have like something called the CIT. That's kind of like, other teams able to kind of get in there. But I think it's going, it'd be great if we get like a flash in the pan, 20 to 22 wins and, be right back at it in the tournament. But definitely giving a little, just not getting my hopes up, I guess I'd say, just given how bad last year was.
I think I don't know if we've ever actually said this, but I kind of think a generic blueprint being in the Big Ten is 20 wins, call it 9 Big Ten wins.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
you're a factor, you're probably getting it. And I think, just looking at what we did, I agree with you. If we can double the win total, clean up all that mess, and I don't know who we lost to, but no more Central Michigans, no more Chattanoogas, no all that bullshit.
Yeah.
Clean all that up. Um, let's say split them with State, split them with Ohio. Maybe you lose to the best team in the Big Ten a couple of times, or whatever. But you're splitting them with the middle of the road teams, and then you're just stacking those wins somewhere, hopefully into the mid teens, let's call it. So I think that'd be something where if he can do that, call it bring in a top 20 or two transfer player and a top 100 or two recruit, I think we'll be headed right back in the right path. I think that's kind of how I look. Just build the confidence, get a name for yourself. But yeah, this year I think, I mean, I don't even know. I remember watching that Florida Atlantic team, but I couldn't tell you what type of offense we're gonna run. I couldn't tell you what you like to do.
Yeah.
It's kind of I don't know nothing.
I'm with
So
you.
it's gonna
Yeah.
be
I think the one thing I can take, because I guess I'm right there with you. Don't really know a ton about him, but I like that he was able to make it shake at Florida Atlantic of all places. Like this has always been one of the schools where I'm like, they had a basketball team. Like it was legit my thought when they were making that run last year. Like he kind of came out of nowhere. Middle of last year, that little Final Four run. Um, I'm just looking at his coaching record from like 2018 up until last year. I mean. 17 and 16, 17 and 15, 13 and 10, 19 and 15. Those are solid records for like FAU, you know what I'm saying? So I hope and feel that coming up to a different, school with more resources, he probably got more money to throw at assistant coaches, they've been talking about how they're trying to improve a lot of the NIL. They're gonna, lower some of the requirements around like admissions. So there is like some slight optimism there that you might be able to make something shake. This upcoming season just with the new landscape of college basketball and how teams are able to kind of speed up the process. Rebuild wherever that may look like just by getting a couple guys out of the portal. So
yeah. No, I agree with you on that. I think they got a little bit up, kind of got a road ahead of them, but I'm
mhm.
here to fight for them, and I think uh new landscape with new teams coming in. I mean, now's the time to try to make some things shake. And it's kind of a good time to just, get it done and swap out them coaches and hopefully kind of turn this back around quickly.
Yeah, for what it's
But I
worth,
think
I
there's probably a changing of the helm at state coming soon. There's probably, I think things are going to be happening in the Big Ten. If you can kind of be established, you can kind of capitalize on that.
yeah. And I also saw, just for what it's worth, that I don't, don't do a ton of like searching and like coaches and all this, but I did see that he hired Oklahoma State's former head coach,
Hmm.
that recruited Cade. And I saw that, and I definitely don't get too much into the recruiting nowadays because I mean, kids is they're
This
they're
kid got a little brother or
they're
something? No.
right, serious, yeah, for real. Um, the way stuff is now with like kids recruiting, I don't dive into it a ton and don't get my hopes up, but might be like a 5-star from Auburn that this guy is supposedly having some connections to. You know, hopefully he's got enough. Like it sounds like he's doing a really good job of getting like good recruiters around him to expedite this process. So, like I said, I don't get excited about certain players until they sign that NIL. Hell, even nowadays they sign the NLI and then try to work their way out of it after the fact. So you never really know what kids are coming to the school until they show up on campus. But it sounds like at least he's got some guys with him that'll be able to expedite the process of like, you know, getting, double digit wins, winning 15 or more games and getting to the tournament sooner rather than later. So
No, I agree with you on that. And I guess I'll kind of use those 15 wins as a segue here. Our beloved Pistons are sitting at 13 wins. Um, it's tough when our two favorite basketball teams have combined 21 wins. That's but kind of, we're here where we're here where we are. Detroit Pistons had a horrendous season again. I
yeah,
think if you probably go back and watch the last time we were really talking about them, we were probably sitting there hype when they were 2-1. I think 2-1 on it with a chance to win and be 3-0. I think from that point on, considering that was in October and we have 11 more wins since then,
yeah.
is bad. And we're
That
destined to have that first pick again. So I kind of just I want to throw it over to you before I say too much. But what's your thoughts on potential first pick? Cade
yeah.
contract, coach, just
Yeah.
everything doing with the Pistons.
So I think I'll start at the top. I'm hoping and praying that this team gets sold, or we hear something about the process of the team getting sold. We already talked about our man's. I don't even want to say his name on here. Um, we already talked about some of the stuff he's doing just from like a extra investment standpoint. I just don't like how he's operating. And I feel like it'd be great to get an owner that actually loves the game of basketball, and isn't making money off of um, minorities' families in prison when they're trying to call their loved ones just to see how
He's,
things are doing.
he's a
Um,
scum.
yeah. So um, after that, I mean, I think Weaver just kind of even seeing what happened with him and a fan earlier this year. Wouldn't be surprised if he steps down, or they kind of, I don't know who would fire him. Like our owner not even around to even like to fire him. So who knows how that would even go down. But I think we gotta just kind of wipe the slate clean. Monty Williams, I feel like, you look back and he had that excitement as far as like how much they paid him and all of this, but you fast forward and it's like, yeah, they basically, it feels like they had to beg him off the couch essentially. So they had to pay him that money to come coach. And I don't think he really, came close to doing anything we needed him to do from a development standpoint. Not playing Ivy, like until like, oh, like, and not playing Ivy, but playing Killian over Ivy for about a good
Right.
half of the season. Um, it was tough to watch. So I just hope that we're able to kind of get a little bit of the stench out of there, get some good turnover, some good staff to be able to put a better team around Cade. Because I do feel like he does deserve that max contract. I feel like we're kind of in a spot where we got to give him that max contract. Before we're kind of sitting here with no cornerstone, no piece of a franchise to build around overall. So draft, I haven't dug in a ton yet. There's a lot of guys I feel like getting pushed on us from like G League Ignite and like France and like overseas. But like I said before we got on here, you usually hear about a couple guys, quite often, around this time of year. And I feel like nobody's really come to that. I like I haven't heard of anybody quite yet. So that's very telling in my opinion on how this draft could be overall.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I think you made a lot of great points. I couldn't agree more with you on Tom Gorse. He just when I found out, read a little bit more about him and what kind of how he makes money, just other outside of the horrendous shit with the prisons, just buying companies and draining them, and he's kind of you know, um, I think people refer to it as this cigarette method, where you try to pick a company up a cigarette with a couple more puffs in it before you throw it away. I think that's and it's bad.
Looks
And
like that's what
you look
he
at the fact that
do.
we have, yep, you look at the fact that we haven't spent any money on players. We're sitting there with one of the best caps, um,
Most cap room.
yeah, cap room available. It's just bad out here, and all the weird shit we were doing with all those contracts, and it just made it, you know, our biggest people we've signed so far have been players a la Kimball Walker, a la whoever that we are giving millions of dollars to,
Yeah.
and with no hopes of them ever playing for us,
Yeah,
contributing anything,
they're walking.
and it's bad. And I agree with you. I think Monty Williams just not. It doesn't seem motivated. He doesn't seem, um, with all things happening with him and his family, like you said, have to convince him to come out, and $70 million is hard to turn down. I guarantee, and just I think the season's got going how it was, and we had that long losing streak, and I think he just lost all motivation and interest. And I don't know what we can do about that, because if we fire him, we're on the hook for the rest of the money. If
Yeah.
if we leave him lingering around and he doesn't really care, that's a kind of a just bad situation for everybody involved. So I don't know. It's a tough situation, but I agree with you. I hate to even feel this way because I do like Cade a lot, but I agree with you. I kind of feel like we are kind of over the barrel when it comes to re-signing him. Where, um, I'm proud that I'm happy that he got 62 games this year. I don't know if he's officially been shut down or not. I know there's only a handful of games left, but 62 games, 22 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists. Sorry, 4 rebounds, 7 assists, 35% from three, 44% from the field. I mean, I think
Fair this year.
you can build on that. And considering just him putting the team on the back. I remember just watching him fight to try to get some of those wins. Dropping 40 a handful of times this year, dropping 30, 10 plus times this year. We have a real future all-star type player on this team. And I've seen players, not to sound, I know stats aren't everything, but I've seen player comparisons with him and Pablo Banchero. Stats are identical.
Yeah.
Him and uh Brunson, pretty damn close.
Trey
You know, I
Young.
yeah. So I think he we do have something special here. Particularly he got to stay healthy. I understand that, but it is what it is as far as that goes, from a business standpoint, and we can put that in the contract. I don't know what they officially call it, but the Derrick Rose, Zion rule, where if you don't play X
But
amount of
yeah.
games, some of that will come back. I think it's in our best interest to go ahead and lock him up, because, like you said, if we do not, I don't know who we're building around. What the plan is. We're already so bad anyway. You're gonna say, all right, we'll get rid of him, be even worse. Um, and in the draft, I think it sucks that you know, I mean, last year was the year where you wanted to be a top three pick. Any one of those guys, damn near franchise type player, might have moved Cade to number two, on our own team. Particularly if we would have got Wimby. But
Yeah.
it is what it is. So I think my fear is Wimby has inflated the prices, or inflated the stock value of every light skinned kid in France. And you look at the top mock drafts. I looked at two today. Both of them are tall, lengthy kids from France. You know, I'm not saying that neither one of them will be good. Maybe that league is just pumping out good players. Maybe they got something special in the water over there now. But that does scare me, because you think back, we've already messed around. I mean, maybe the third time's a charm. We already messed around with Seiko. We messed around with Killian Hayes. So maybe this one is the charm. But that terrifies me. And just looking, I'd have to go back and figure out exactly what league Wimby played in. I don't remember, but uh does and if I'm saying his name wrong, my fault. But does Zachariah
Oh,
French kid,
Zachary Richer.
Richard. Yeah. Um, been playing professional since he was 16. Obviously, that's legit. Putting up 13 and 13-4 this year.
Yeah.
Some crazy stats. 56% from three, but he's only hit 26. Um, things like that is a little interesting. And
Mhm.
then the one that I forgot who went to go watch him. Maybe it was Dwayne Casey went to go watch the other kid,
Oh yeah.
the star kid,
Hmm.
and I think he's the projected first pick right now. But either one of those guys, I think we got to do our due diligence. And that's not, I couldn't tell you like any other year, but I don't know any college player that I would jump on a sword for right now to say I know he's better than these French kids. I
Right.
couldn't tell you that. Any other year, I'd be running for a Fox or somebody from the states, period. But I don't know any of them this year to really argue. There's the guy that went the G League route. Oh my God, I'm blanking on his name. Mateus.
Oh,
Um,
Zabelis. Hmm.
yeah, I think he's American, but that's the one guy that I know that I've heard the most about. I know he reclassified. He would have been the number one player in the country this year, but he reclassified. So, um, he might be in the mix too. But I got to do a little more research.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
hopefully we can hopefully they'll do the right thing, spend some money, get some help around us. Um,
That's the key.
yeah,
So, like the draft, I mean, obviously this is like the bread and butter. This is where you like build that team out. But I mean, I'm looking. We got Cade at the one, Ivy at the two, Asar at the three, um, with Fontecchio at the four, Duran at the five. So that's four guys already in your starting lineup that been drafted the last couple of years. None of them over 25.
right.
Like, what would you think is like? What would our need even be? Do we need like a power forward? I think, I like Duran, but I'll be honest, kind of a dinosaur, like
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like he's a good player. I just,
I
it's
think
tough
I
with
think
what
that's a good question. Um, I think Duran I think Duran works if you have four more shooters on court.
Right. Yep.
Um, so that would mean probably a SAR would be replaced, and who's young enough to learn how to shoot. He's young enough to develop into a 3-and-D type guy. But I think I would kind of really focus on maybe like a 3-4 type
Yeah.
hybrid somewhere in that role where, um, depending on the lineup you want to have, you could he could be at the three, or depending on the lineup, he could be at the four. Um, that's kind of what I'll be looking for, a guy that can shoot, spread the floor. Uh, you know, I don't know. I also feel like we're so bad that it might be just best player available.
Yeah, I
You
was about
know,
to say that too.
because if I love Ivy, but let's say the best players are two, or a 2-2-1 type combo. What could we get for him? Could we get another shooter on the floor? Could we get let's say a
Yeah.
Sadiq Bey type player back, where we could combo that with Cade and whoever. So I think we gotta be open to a lot of options here.
Mhm.
And I think the one special player we do have is Cade. Ivy probably be number two, Duran number three, Asar maybe four.
Yeah.
Um, but I think
And I'd probably put Asar
I
over. I'd probably put him over Duran, honestly, just because of like I feel like the whole league is just like they just want a player like him, six
yeah,
eight, 6'9", defender, can play the three and the four, maybe even the two. I think he played a little point guard. Um,
yeah.
I like Ivy, but
Yeah,
I
no, I mean we
just
don't know what he will turn into.
right,
And I'm
yeah,
not going to give up on him. I mean he found he can't hit the side of a backboard shooting three, but he does just about everything else good.
yeah.
Um,
One
and
team that I
he
like. Sorry, go ahead.
no, you're good.
Oh, I was gonna say one team that I brought up to you a couple times was just like the Rockets, and this is even kind of wish we would even went after Udoka, but that's a conversation for another day.
We
But
definitely
I
should.
mean, he got there. I mean, they were like us, right? Littered with lottery picks. You know, they traded like three of them got back, some solid players. They signed, Dylan Brooks. They went and, some say they maybe overpaid him, but they got Fred Van Vliet. I mean, he's like a six
Yep.
one point guard. They paid him like, yeah, he made 40 million this year. But like, I guess what I'm trying to get to is like we need guys that have, this veteran leadership, veteran presence. They got Jeff Green on their team, they got Steven Adams on their team. Like, we I'll be interested to see what kind of happens with the draft because, like, I feel like one thing we can't do is like continue to try to get younger. I think sometimes in that draft, like, it's kind of what just happens to where I hope that like we can get, you know, a formidable player in that top five, top three. And then we just got to see more from the front office in the summer. Like instead of just trading for guys throughout the season and letting them walk, like they need to go out and prioritize like somebody on like a max deal or like, you know what I'm saying? Like one of these like pay somebody some money to help I think 3 to 4 guys that build up this team a little bit better from an experience
Right.
standpoint.
I think you definitely got to fill out the roster with a couple of veterans, and veterans at this point could be a 25, 27 year old man. It doesn't because we're out
Yeah.
there with a bunch of younger guys, and um, I think we've been in this rebuild for so damn long. It is time to pour some gas on it and expedite it a little bit. I don't want to do it at the
The
detriment
second one.
of
I
the
want to
whole.
cut the one.
We're gonna rebuild every year. No, I don't. I don't want to do it at the detriment of the team long term. But at some point,
Right.
we can't care about the long term because the short term is so bad. Like,
Mhm.
so I agree with you. So you got to spend some of this money, and do it aggressively but wisely as well. Like,
Yep.
where maybe you go. I don't know who's a free agent, or maybe you go overpay on a veteran, but maybe it's only a 2 year deal. You're dropping
Mhm.
somebody a little more money, but for 2 years, they're gonna get
Yeah.
more money than you know, and just stabilize things around here. Help teach some of these younger players how to win, how to be real professionals. Help weather the storm. I mean, how many games were we in that just we fumbled at the end of the game due to whatever, a bad play, a bad turnover, whatever. It was
Yeah. Because I'll say
it, it
if you hang your hat on anything, they were competing this year, you know what I'm saying? But they just didn't have the experience to like bring it home. Like even like you brought up that loss, like when they lost to the Trailblazers, that kind of started the whole onslaught of losing. Like they were leading that entire game and just fell apart in the fourth. Literally with like 3, 4, like watching them, it just be 2 or 3 minutes left and it's a tie game. And don't let it be like a playoff team. Like I watched the
yeah,
Pistons just give away probably 8 to 10 games this year. So it's like, I mean, I'm looking at, Fred Van Vliet. I ain't trying to knock my man's. He averaged like 17 and 8 this year. He getting 40 mil. But you look at, won a championship, 6, 7 year vet, Dylan Brooks, been to the conference semis, all defense team, even people knocked him, for what he did in the playoffs and everything. But I mean, they thought he was worth bringing in 22, for 22 mil a year. 12-3 and 2. Probably make an all defense team, something like that. But like with both those guys, I would kill to have them guys on our team right now just to stabilize shit. Like that's just what we
yeah,
need is like some guys to just the game get tight, give me the ball. Like this is how you're supposed to act A, B, and C, or this is what you're supposed to do, B, C, D, E, and F. Like just get a little more experience in there. And I know we kind of I'm talking in circles at this point, but I just think like we got to just take that next step. Like I think Weaver did a solid job drafting, but like that was just it. He would just get a whole bunch of 19
yeah,
year olds, and then we take on a couple bad contracts and help other teams make the playoffs, essentially. So
yeah, yeah. No, we were giving away playoff spots by just taking on bad contracts, and I'm not gonna lie, you can probably go find film on here for a year or two ago where I was okay with it, but then enough is enough. Like there was no
yeah,
reason
oh,
you should have rolled out this bad of a team this year. Um, we chalked it up the year before due to Cade being injured, and then we thought, okay, you guys, Cade got hurt. Maybe you're trying to get this Wimbyama kid, whatever. But this year around, you know, I really to this day, this is should be a minimum like a 30 win squad. I
yeah,
don't know how they're that bad, but I'm hoping for a quick turnaround because I mean, they could double their win total, and that wouldn't mean shit. They could have a top
Yeah,
three pick again. Yeah, they could.
yeah,
So, um, I don't know, man. It's got to happen, and
for
if not,
sure.
you got to clean. You definitely get if they roll out anything less than, and this isn't even saying much, but anything less than 30 wins next year, they got to clean house from top to bottom, starting with the owner.
Sure.
They got to
Yeah.
force him to sell, um,
So at
and
this
go from
point,
there.
it's like malpractice. Like a franchise to the ground because you got an owner that just don't
Yeah,
care.
it's bad
So
for business for everybody. Yeah,
right, yeah, yeah. So I think if we're yeah, I mean, and just for what it's worth, the Rockets, the team I just kind of was referring to, 39-40, and they was in the lottery, same amount of
side by
years
side with us. Yep.
picked before us, picked after us. Like they got Jalen, we got Cade. They did strike gold with Sengun, but I mean, we got Duran. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like you get a couple more shooters on this team, couple 7, 6 to 8 year, year vets.
Yep.
Give somebody a max contract, they take it just to stabilize something. Hopefully, Monty. We'll see what happens with the coach. Like you said, probably don't want to pay him that money. We wouldn't mind if he stepped down as well, but yeah, just hope that they can get ducks in a row, whatever needs to be taken care of before the draft in June.
Yeah. No, for sure. You got anything else for the people?
Oh, that's all I got. We'll be back with y'all next week. NFL draft around the corner. Yeah, just touch on that a little bit more before the 24th.
Yes, sir. See y'all then. Peace.